So next, let's turn to Kathy. What's happening from our angle, from your angle?
Actually, it's very interesting. There's a news. I don't know if how many people read about this news. This news actually got quite big today. It first came out from Axios.
Axios.
So, but it went on to, was published by all different kinds of media, like including the Federalist. So it's regarding how a CCP suspected Chinese spy, a woman actually, how she corrupt the United States elected officials. So I think this actually kind of coincide with what we talked about yesterday at the interview.
I was thinking about this news should be break first, and then we have our interview yesterday. But we got it the other way around. But doesn't matter. It's still quite reconnected. Like answering what the young man was sharing yesterday, right?
Yeah, Vanessa. So, he talked about how the Chinese Communist government used Chinese students to, do something benefit the Chinese government. So very specifically, this woman called Kristen Fang or Fang Fang.
Yeah, let's still see the photo. I mean, the previous one we will put on.
Yeah.
The lady on the right, right?
Right. And reportedly, she's a Chinese intelligence operative. Yeah, the lady. And the people, the
people on the left is a congressman.
Congressman Eric Swalwell.
Yeah.
In the East Bay, California East Bay.
He was a presidential election a candidate.
Very early on he was on the crowded candidates from the Democratic Party. He was actually a member of the Intelligence Committee in the House. So this lady, Kristen Fang, was in Bay Area from 2011 to 2015, and Congressman Swalwell was one of her earlier elected officials she approached. Okay. So it was found, according to the report, she's actually the member of, belongs to the CCP's Ministry of State Security. So what she did was she actually came as a student.
Yeah, and she was leading the student association.
Right.
Just like what we covered yesterday.
Yeah, yesterday Vanessa in the interview said, how they used the student and the Chinese Student Scholar Association, right? So this Kristen Fang was the student leader of the association in California State University in East Bay, which actually I studied there for one semester.
Okay.
So she was there, but she became very active. Became the president of the Chinese student body, and then also she became very active to going to connect with those through the student body. She connect with those political officials, including Fremont City Council member and Swalwell and Judy Chu, who is also the congresswoman from Southern California. Okay, and then what she did was she got acquainted with them, and then she started to do campaign work for them. Okay, she actually Congressman Mike Honda. At that time, it's a city council member of San Jose, Ash Cara. They had we have a picture Z3. That picture was actually taken in 2014 at the Chinese embassy in DC.
You mean this photo?
Right. So that's another story. A lot of the United States elected officials attend parties, functions in Chinese embassy or consulate.
Yeah.
That's another issue.
So on the left is the former Congressman Mike Honda. On the right is his successor, Ro Khanna.
Not successor. He was a city council member of San Jose. Now he's the California State Assembly member.
You mean the person on the right?
Right.
Okay. What is his name?
Ash Cara.
Ash Cara. Okay. Yeah. Thanks for the correction.
And then she also approached, had some relationship with Ro Khanna, the congressman also from the East Bay, Ro Khanna. And that's, the Indian look guy.
She's all over the place.
She's all over the place. And what she how she do is that do campaign work for them. She do fundraising for them. So one of the fundraiser she did was to help. At that time, it's a Hawaii Congresswoman, Tulsi Gabbard. You remember, she's also one of the Democratic presidential candidates.
Yes.
And then, she really became well known in California's political circle. So, and one thing also I wanted to point out is that a lot of things she branched out of from the school, right, the student body, and she became the president, the Bay Area chair of Young APAPA. What is APAPA? It's called the Asian Pacific Association for Public Affairs.
Okay.
It's actually with a long history. I actually pretty familiar with them, with the founder who was entrepreneur, McDonald owners. But actually, according to Axios report, they tried to, separate them from this Christine Fang, which they recruited as one of the branch chair. But this APAPA actually, a lot of people in there have close relationship with Chinese government. That's another story. Anyhow, so and according to the Axios report, this Christine Fang reportedly had a romantic or sexual relationship with two Midwestern elected officials.
I would say that probably just known, right? At least.
Yeah, and it's the report has a lot of more details,
Okay.
and then how people can just approve her relationship with the Chinese Communist government, right? So one thing is she got a certificate of honor awarded by the Chinese consulate in San Francisco, and actually in 2015 she just went back to China suddenly and never come back. Never came back.
She probably sensed the danger and then just stay low.
Yeah, exactly. At that time, FBI started to, investigate her and also gave a notice to Congressman Eric Swalwell.
I hope they don't call her and say, stay away. Anyway, that's just my little comment.
Right, and people say she seems. Those officials say she seems to be pretty wealthy. She drove a white Mercedes, but never talk about her family or her hometown. So, it's like kind of a brief summary of this story. Then I had a chance to talk to Vanessa again, the young man.
The young man,
Yeah, the whistleblower who exposed the fake ballots printed in China.
What is his comment?
So what is his comment? So first of all, I just, it's a phone call. And so I asked him, what's your reaction on this news?
They planned it to send a spy into the United States. And that's just not like 1 year or 2 years since Obama government. They're sending a lot of them into the United States, trying to get close with those politicians. And they're a puppy. And when those communist government, they need them. But if they don't need them, they just dump them. You found right now, just only one case. There have a lot. Even they found out in public, they won't accept it. They won't say, oh, I am the one. No. Even for the government, they're going to dump them.
And then I asked him, how exactly those kind of spies work on the U.S. elected officials. What's their way?
They will give them some promises, money, work, and then they get a lot attention from those politicians, the corrupt politician. Once they become to their wife and girlfriend, they're trying to dating with them, and promise them, oh, you will get vote from another Asian community, or you will get some support inside of those big tech or those commercial advertisement, those like financial companies. That's what they do.
Yeah, and then I asked him, it's reported that this Christine Fang used a kind of romantic or sexual relationship to get closer to the officials. So I just asked Vanessa, do you know, is that what they usually do?
This corruption didn't call it romantic relationship because from the beginning it's not romantic. They're just using for each other, and they're trying to scam people. They're trying to scam their emotion, and they're trying to using them emotion to get what they want. And yes, 75% they get it.
Yeah, so that's Vanessa's take on it. So actually, he knew more about, he actually has a very concrete example of what he knows, how the Chinese government actually use, they circumvent the system.
Yeah.
And they use basically women to corrupt the U.S. Officials. I have a bigger story, probably can share with you tomorrow or the day after.
Okay, maybe I just add two pieces of information for you. There's one thing is, in the Chinese American media in this country, there was newspaper, TV, radio, and then now there's social media and so on, online media. So sometimes there's this, very capable young people, reporter from China, speak good English and of course, and the Chinese, and then they become reporters. As reporters, just like us, you interview people, you got to know people, got to know VIPs, elected officials, you get acquainted with them. And at a certain point, after a couple of years, they said, "Oh, I want to quit. Do you have a job? Can you have a job for me?" Then suddenly they become an aide, like Asian liaison, right? Asian community liaison of a lieutenant governor or a congressman and things like that. I'm not saying that everybody become that way, but that's a good number. This is kind of a one track, one pattern for those people, agent from China, through the media, then become a working the elected official and get close to them.
Yeah, and I actually one time I put up a list for those type of so-called reporters from the Chinese media who became aide or representative of California elected officials. It's from like the city level to county level to state level, including an aide, a representative in former California Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yeah, and also just like what Vanessa said yesterday, and the Chinese government, CCP, learn very fast. Okay, originally they thought they just work on the governor, work on the federal,
from the highest level.
Highest level. Then they learn, they become patient. Okay, they work in the state level, they work in the municipal level. They arrange for this so-called China delegation, American delegation to China. They roll the red carpet for you in China. Even you're just a mayor, you just make, you take $500 as a volunteer mayor. You would be treated as a king if you go to China. They walk the red carpet, roll the red carpet for you, and they treat you well. You eat well, you tour well. Then they, at a hotel, luxury hotel, they send women to you. Then they videotape it with their hidden camera. Then they got hold of you. You are theirs. They can just threaten you whenever you don't behave, you don't do what they want you to do. A few California elected official fell in that trap, right? One person is the Leland Yee,
the former senator of the California.
Yeah.
He tried to run for Secretary of State, and right before that he was dinged by the FBI.
And this is not a secret, okay, for people who work on those, people in China and in the so-called 侨界, Chinese American community circle, they know how CCP work. So it's just corrupted and trapped a lot of American elected officials.
Yeah, and one thing I would like to share, because we talked about the media, right? So actually, on one hand, they use the Chinese media reporters to disguised as to use the convenience of work to get close to the elected officials and then become their staff, right? The other way is, because that's my personal experience actually, they influence the local elected officials to be away from journalists like us, like myself. I had numerous times, because in the United States, I never thought as a journalist I would encounter such resistance or the refusal by a local elected official saying, I don't want it to, I cannot take your interview because...
From you as a journalist of independent media.
Right,
as a
because-
Chinese media who is not bought by the CCP.
Yeah, because we in our previously we explained to you how we used to just only do Chinese language media news reporting because we don't shy away from reporting like the human rights abuse in China, but and then Chinese government, as you can imagine, they don't like this type of media. So what they do is, in some different ways, they influence our local elected officials and scare them away from us. Yeah. So can you imagine that?
Yeah. So that's the story. I don't know whether you know this, how much you know this, or whether you believe this.